talk about it. So, Paul, let's go with the front page of the Sunday Times. The headline there, we can see Johnson had credit facility worth up to £800,000 while in Downing Street. So many questions going on here. Firstly, who has £800,000 to just give away? And what do they get in return? Just spill for us.
Well, according to the Sunday Times, this is a chap called Sam Bly. He's a Canadian businessman. He is the founder of Canada's biggest chain of private schools. And he is a distant cousin of Boris Johnson. Who wouldn't like a distant cousin to underwrite their lifestyle? With this story, it says that he also had his Dominican Republic villa, which he gave Boris Johnson for free to use, which is normally $5,000 a night. Again, who wouldn't like to have use of a $5,000 a night villa? I think the thing that's interesting about this is they said that Johnson used this to pay for everything from divorce payments to childcare costs, and it speaks to this particular idea of a sense of entitlement that some people believe Boris Johnson had, like he's some kind of Evelyn and Waugh character. And also, given that we have heard this narrative start to play out, that Boris Johnson perhaps is waiting for his great comeback. He's waiting for Sunak to fail, and then he'll come in like the hero of the piece. Who knows exactly if that's true, but it's certainly something that's been played out. Well, why would anybody want him back if he lives in this kind of lifestyle where he doesn't take responsibility for anything and just goes to this massive credit card? It's a significant story. We don't know how much he drew down over the 2 years or so that he was in Downing Street, but he had this ability to get money, it seems, at the drop of a hat when he wanted, which also, I suppose, takes him into the normal lifestyle that a lot of people are facing, the cost of living crisis.
Absolutely, and a lot of people don't have that distant cousin. I mean, I wonder if we're all related to him. Maybe we should start looking into our family tree. You never quite know, do you? Actually, let me come to you. This is a very serious story on the front page of the Sunday Express there. That headline, we can see there, spelling it out, sex assault during riot at Migrant Centre.
Yes, that's right. The Sunday Express is reporting that on claims that a migrant centre worker was assaulted during a riot at Britain's largest immigration removal camp last November. They also report that some refugees at the centre had tried to keep the peace and attempted to protect staff as mayhem broke out. And this is from a Home Office report that the Sunday Express has requested. This all happened after staff had requested to evacuate detainees after a loss of water and electricity, and they were refused. And it's really worrying that these kinds of awful incidents might be used to fuel further a migration panic, which in turn gives impetus to ever more inhumane policies aimed at migrants, attempting to deter them. So the idea is just to make people's lives as brutal as possible to try to stop them from coming to the UK. But study after study has shown that it doesn't actually work. And all that it does is create worse and worse situations. And it creates situations like this, where workers in these centres are put in danger, dealing with people who are pushed to the absolute brink. And it puts people in migrants in danger as they try to cross and enter into the UK via more and more difficult channels. It creates this kind of vicious circle where more and more panic is stoked, and this feeds more and more brutal policies. And it's got to end at some point. We have to realize that it's government policy, migration policy, inhumane migration policy that's causing this.
And moving on to the next story. Also in The Observer, actually, this is page 3 of The Observer. Paul, Whitehall spending tens of millions on bill to scrap EU laws. Should we be worried?
Well, I think if we are worried about massive government overspending when it isn't essential, then yes, because what this is looking at, I suppose, the Brexit cost. Everything comes at a cost, and when there's rhetoric from government about how they're going to get rid of red tape, which is always just regulation. This is the reality of it. According to this story, tens of millions have been spent on the bill to scrap the EU laws that is currently going back and forth between the Lords and the Commons, the retained EU laws bill. there's about 4,000 pieces of legislation and laws, regulations that have got to be got rid of, and I suppose replaced with something. This story relates to the Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy. It admitted it spent 600,000 in staffing costs in the last couple of months to try and find a way to get rid of these laws and regulations. However, that's less than 10% of the total that need to be got rid of. So you can see how this starts to factor up. Other government departments have been told they can't give this information. So yes, we should be worried. While the sunlit uplands of Brexit are definitely not forthcoming, there is also another cost of trying to roll out our separation from the EU. And this is just the start of it. We don't really know the cost yet, the full cost, whether it's financial or social.
And Ashley, let's talk about the NHS and let's also talk about social care, because at a time when spending for both of these areas are very, very tight, a story like this isn't going to sit very well with many people. So also staying with the Observer, page 4, their private brokers earn millions from finding care homes for NHS patients. How have we even got to this stage in the first place?
Well, how we got to this stage is sort of downstream from earlier underfunding in social care. So part of the issue is that hospitals are struggling. Well, part of the reason why hospitals are struggling at the moment, and you've seen long wait times, long times in ambulances, is because a third of hospital beds are occupied by people who are well enough to leave hospital, but because there have been difficulties identifying social care support, they're not able to leave. And so these agencies have come in, which have promised to free up beds in hospital wards. Now, usually this is just done by hospitals themselves, where they will work with local areas and work with local care homes and social care to discharge patients. But these agencies have come in and said that they do they claim that they do an essential service and that they do things quickly and efficiently. But of course, the Observer is reporting that one such company, Care Home Selection Limited, the UK's biggest social care brokerage, has reported revenues increasing by up to 75% since 2018, and that they paid their most senior director £609,000 in 2021. And there are accusations that there are a lot of money they charge a lot of money for these services that might have better been spent on better planning previously on social care, so we didn't have this problem in the first place. It seems as though there's a lot of willingness to overspend or to spend quite a lot of money on these kinds of agencies and services, and less willingness to spend on training and actually paying people to do an essential service in the community, which is social care.
And this is a story that the headline, Paul, is making me laugh, this next story, of page 5 of the Mirror. This is the rise in prices for Heinz there, the bean counters. Heinz price rise puts the wind up shoppers. I mean, I personally, I'm not a beans fan, but we also have to say there are other beans available. There's also supermarket's own brand, isn't there? I mean, why are people so angry about this? So much is going up, right? So what makes Heinz any different?
This is a story that seems to have been written just for that subtext headline, just so that they can have the idea of wind attached to beans, because it's been going around for over a year that particularly Heinz and the price rise of Heinz beans, and how some people are very attached to their beans, and particularly Heinz. There's a lot of brand loyalty, and you're right, there are home brands as well, but Heinz seems to be the one.
We're just running out of time. Oh, the wind. Just what a shame. Thank you so much indeed, Paul and Ashley. Thank you so much. We'll see you after this break.